war, and we require that the International Atomic Energy Agency guarantees the sale. Therefore, we don't see why our selling to one particular country should lead to complaints. We are selling and will continue to sell to Pakistan. If the IAEA doesn't carry out proper supervision, then that's a matter for its own conscience.
The civil servants at the IAEA say they know what's happening to the uranium in Pakistan.
For the time being, the uranium is only stored in drums. It has not been moved away.
But how do you know that? How often your inspectors go there?
We have that has been inspected by us, and we know that.
But how often do you once a year, twice a year?
That again represents a confidential figure. Different installations are visited with different frequency in order to assure that we have a reasonable probability of discovering any diversion of the material.
But if that were the case, you'd have to be able to account for every pound exported from Niger to Pakistan and make sure it was still there and not being used for some improper purpose.
May I say, we should be realistic here. A pound of uranium doesn't represent a danger to mankind.
Eklund's argument would be unassailable, except that large quantities of uranium are sold to Libya, which then ships part of it off to Pakistan. Since Libya hasn't allowed the IAEA inspectors to check how much is left, the agency cannot know how much uranium Pakistan's acquired or what's been done with it. Each of these trucks is carrying about 50 or more drums of uranium on its way to Libya and Pakistan. According to Niger, it sold 150 tons of concentrate to Libya and 300 tons to Pakistan. Our informant says that Libya has sent large amounts of uranium to Pakistan. Gaddafi's done this, he says, to help to protect his role in the bomb project, to get a return on his investment.
The Libyans had always been doubtful about the quid pro quo. Pakistani scientists are training Libyans in laboratory hot cell operations. There is other training going on too, but the Libyans have made it plain. They want what they believed they were promised, full access to the technology.
Gaddafi has another good reason for backing the Pakistani bomb: Israel. The Israelis have made it abundantly clear that if some close Arab country like Libya or Iraq comes near to getting the bomb, they would use their air power to remove the threat from their sphere of influence. And there's no doubt that they could and would do it. But Pakistan's a different matter.
If it is Iraq, for example, I don't think it'll get to the point where Iraq will be within an ace of having a nuclear weapon, because the Israelis will stop it. Whether this means going out to third countries and interfering with the shipment of nuclear equipment, or it means going right inside Iraq and bombing the facility, they will do it. As you know, recently, in the recent years, the Israelis have achieved a dramatic increase in the range of their air power because of the F-15s. They can reach right into the Persian Gulf. And they have the special ordnance bombs that penetrate by kinetic energy deep into the concrete or whatever, and then they explode. So they have the full equipment to do it, and they would do it. If it came to the crunch and they knew the Pakistani weapon being transferred to Libya was sitting in a ship halfway, they would go for the ship, obviously. If it was in a dock in Karachi waiting to go, they might go as far as that. But it is, the further it is in Pakistan, the further it is a Pakistani thing as opposed to being a Libyan Pakistani thing, the less likely they're to act, because they don't feel that it is within the legitimate sphere to go that far.
So a bomb built in the comparative security of Pakistan is still Gaddafi's best bet. The small town of Sant'Angelo Lodigiano in northern Italy. It's a deeply conservative and Catholic place, but it's here that the story of the Islamic bomb's taken its most extraordinary turn. On the outskirts of town, there's a medium-sized engineering works. It's owned by a French company, and here we believe the Pakistanis are trying to resurrect their original plutonium route to the bomb. Our information is that Pakistan's covertly pressing ahead with the complex reprocessing plant that the Americans thought they'd stopped. The company's called Alcom, and it's just started work on 26 vessels and tanks made from special metals to be delivered to Pakistan by next December. The order may not have seemed important, but the contract for the work was signed in April of last year. The date is significant because the very next month, a confidential letter went out from Kojima, the French nuclear fuels company, to SGN, the company controlled by the French government.
Persistent rumours are circulating on the Pakistan affair. Some industrialists are alleged to have directly or indirectly transferred or sold sensitive and non-sensitive material to Italian industrialists. These firms are alleged to have sent the material on to Pakistan.
The boss of Alcom is Signor Aldo Turci.
Excuse me, you can. What is your interest in this matter?
We're interested.
Your personal interest?
My personal interest?
Yes.
Is because I'm trying to find out what sort of things...
Speak slowly. I mean, my English is not so good, eh?
I'm trying to establish what sort of things Pakistan is importing and why they are importing them.
Yes, but I cannot give you any answer about this point. We have supplied a lot of materials to Pakistan. We will supply a lot of materials more to Pakistan, and it is all.
Yes, I know you supply lots of things to Pakistan, but in particular I'm interested in this order from, what's the name of the company that this order came from last year?
I am sorry, but I cannot give you the information you require. I am sorry, sir.
But you told us earlier that the name of the company...
No, sir. Excuse me, sir. The job is a serious matter, job.
What do you think these particular vessels or pool linings are for?
Off? Full?
The things you are going to supply to Asiatic Chemical?
No, sir. Excuse me. Hey, no, eh? No,
The reason for Signor Turci's outburst is now clear. He'd been told by his French superiors that he was to allow no filming and to make no comment.
No.
Wait.
No, sir. No. Wow. And, sorry.
The parent company in Paris is called BSL. They were contractors in the original reprocessing plan. The management will neither confirm nor deny that they or their subsidiary is involved in the Pakistan order.
But one of their officials has told us off the record that all they're doing is making a perfectly innocent chemical plant. The reason they say that is that's precisely what the Pakistanis have told them.
But if the Pakistanis are, as we believe, trying to rise to something as complex as a reprocessing plant, how would they know how to set about it? The reason's simple. Virtually all of the blueprints for the plant have already been handed over to them by the French government-controlled SGN company. But if they have the plans as they have, is there anything that you can see that would stop them going ahead alone, using what means they had at their disposal?
I think that if you take any country that's industrially developed enough, which is the case of Pakistan, if the government decides to put its pressure to push one definite project, nothing can resist. A government can do anything.
The signals are that Pakistan's already made some preparations for a bomb test. Soviet and American satellites have picked up indications of tunneling, possibly for an underground trial. The site's thought to be in the remote desert area of Chulistan. If so, there's a dreadful irony about the choice of the testing ground. It's just across the border from where the Indians exploded their crude bomb. But that doesn't mean that Pakistan is aiming at the same thing.
It's just a question of how sophisticated a weapon will they design. I mean, there's a kind of a presumption in asking the question that you got a bunch of dummies that are going to work on it. There's no reason to think they're going to be dummies work on it. They might be just as good or better a physicist that's worked on it at Los Alamos. They might be some guy in there that really understands how you put the tamper on there and where you put the initiator, and just to get just a feeling of how it works right off the bat. He'll say, oh yeah, and it ought to go together like, and we can just hold her together for about a microsecond. I think we'll get about a such and such a kind of, I mean, don't assume that dummies are going to work on it. If they're motivated, they may do a hell of a job of making weapons.
We believe that in 18 months, scientists at PINSTEC, the Pakistan Institute of Technology, will have produced enough plutonium for their first test bomb. The bomb the West was convinced they could never make.
You could see it when the Chinese set off their first nuclear weapon. In this country, they say, well, how could those dummies have set off a highly enriched uranium weapon? They could never have figured out how to make a diffusion plant. Well, then the U-2 flew over and looked, they took a picture, and there in Kanza province, they've got their enrichment plant. I mean, it's convenient.
Whether or not Zia survives as Pakistan's leader, he's placed an impossible burden on the country. Once the bomb is known to exist, he, or whoever succeeds him, will face enormous problems. Instead of creating security, the weapon will do quite the opposite. Libya will demand a return for all her help in the form of nuclear expertise. If the bomb is there, the military will want to test it. With mistrustful India on her doorstep, that could be a disastrous move.
Detonating the device would give one warning that X months, years down the road, they will have a real weapon. They'll have weaponized their device. And during that intervening period, the pressure on India to act, to disarm the Pakistanis will be enormous. The conflict between the two countries is potentially a fatal conflict. It's about the existence of Pakistan, not about any disputed border province. And there's always the possibility that the Indians will not allow the Pakistanis to make the transition from the crude device to the weapon, and that means war.
When the dream of the Islamic bomb was born, Ali Bhutto promised, "We shall have the bomb, even if we have to eat grass to get it." Pakistan may find there's no grass to eat.